we're in the midst of the most extraordinary time ever to be alive. And I think Bitcoin is the new capital structure that must exist as we head into this warp speed, this hyperspeed.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Coin Stories podcast. I'm Natalie Brunell, and joining me this week is Peter Diamandis. He is an exceptional thinker on topics like longevity, exponential technologies, and the future of humanity, and he's also a really big Bitcoiner. So it's great to have you on the show. First of all, I have to get your reaction to $100,000 of Bitcoin.
Holy shit, that's amazing. Yes, finally. And the first 100,000 is the easy part. Let's get it to 1 million.
Yeah, it's definitely going there. Well, I would love to learn a little bit more about you. I know a lot of my viewers and listeners are familiar with your work and your books, but can you let's take this back. Where are you from? I know that you went to college with Mr. Michael Saylor, that many people are familiar with. So tell me how you got to be where you are.
Sure. So born in New York, my parents were both from the island of Lesbos in Greece. It was sort of expected I'd become a physician. So along the way, I ended up at MIT for my undergraduate years, and then stayed there for a decade, getting an aerospace graduate degree, and then a MD from Harvard, MIT. And while I was there, Michael Saylor and I, another dear friend, Dave Blunden, who's in the exponential venture space, lived and worked together. I did my aeroastro problem sets with Michael, and it was an extraordinary time. No idea that Mike would become who he was. I was there during MicroStrategy days, and I saw his massive ascent, and then his descent, and his ascent again, and now he's just heading up exponential. I'm wearing my drinking out of my exponential 10 to the 9th plus thinking cup, and so MIT medical school, and then since then I've started 27 companies. I've been an entrepreneur all my life. Passion early on for space. Started the International Space University, which was my first university. Singularity University was the second university I founded. Started a launch company, satellite communications company, a company called Zero G that would take people weightless. One of my high points in my life was taking Stephen Hawking, the world's expert in gravity, into zero gravity, which was an absolute blast. And then from there, I really started focusing on what I call 10 to the 9th plus projects. How do you impact the lives of 1 billion people in a positive fashion? Started the XPRIZE Foundation, which is now 30 years old this year, which is super hard for me to believe. And we've launched 30 XPRIZes, right? These are large cash incentive competitions, like $10 million to go into space. I got Elon, who I've known for 25 years now, to fund a $100 million carbon removal prize to remove carbon from the atmosphere and the oceans. We launched a $119 million prize out of Abu Dhabi for large-scale desalination. These are not prizes for ideas or for something you've done in the past. These are prizes for the first person to accomplish a goal. And a year ago, I was in Riyadh in Saudi and launching a $101 million health span prize to reverse your age by 20 years. And so, that's been a big deal. I have 2 large venture funds, Bold Capital, which is mostly in longevity and biotech, deploying about 600 plus million AUM. And then Exponential Ventures is about half a billion in AI mostly. And I'm just a 9-year-old kid having fun starting companies.
Well, is there something from your upbringing or your past that you feel really shaped the person that you are? Because not everyone, even those with high aspirations, can go out there and start all these companies. It takes a lot of confidence and courage, and you take on a lot of risk. Like, what is it about you that was so future oriented and willing to start a lot of these ventures that might not have worked out?
I think I got addicted to it, honestly. So first off, when I saw the journey my dad had, right, coming from the small island where all of his friends and family had never left the island, and becoming a teacher or a priest was sort of everyone's aspirations. To going from there to becoming a successful New York physician was this incredible journey that inspired me
Mm.
and showed me the the benefits of having a mission, a passion, and hard work. The second thing, when I was at MIT, it was the Apollo program in Star Trek. I like to say the Apollo program showed us what we could do, and then that visionary documentary called Star Trek showed us where humanity was going. And those two lit up my heart, and I wanted to become an astronaut. I wanted to commercialize space,
Wow.
and I realized NASA wasn't the way I was going to do it. And that lit my heart, on fire. And when I was at MIT, when I got there was no student space organization. So I started one. It was called, and still is going now, 40 years later, strong, called
Mm.
Students for the Exploration and Development of Space, SEDS. And I had no idea whether this idea would catch on. I remember writing a letter to Omni magazine, which no longer exists, but it was a good one back then, astronomy analog magazine, saying, we students should self-organize. Our future is in space, and the government's mortgaging it. They're canceling programs left and right. And I've started this group called SEDS. If you want to start a chapter at your school, please do. And I had very little expectations. I had hundreds of letters from around the world of people who wanted to start SEDS chapters. And
Wow.
it's still going strong. I ran it
Mm.
out of my fraternity living room. One of the people who ran the Princeton chapter was Jeff Bezos. So I met Jeff back then. And
Wow.
I remember meeting him again after he had started Amazon in a coffee shop in Seattle. I was like, "So Jeff, what's this Amazon thing?" It's
No.
like, I thought you were doing space. He goes, "Yeah, I'm gonna make my money in Amazon, and then I'll spend it in space." An easy 1-2 step plan. So anyway, and then I think that success in SEDS was uh, sort of showed me it was like really cool to start something and have a vision, a passion, a mission. And so I'm very passion and vision oriented, right? When I'm speaking to kids or CEOs or executives or whomever, I'm saying, listen, the most important thing you need to do is find out your purpose in life. What is your massive transformative purpose? And I quote Mark Twain, who said, listen, there are two important days in your life: the day that you were born and the day that you found out why.
Mm.
And so I teach that. I do a lot of work teaching entrepreneurs about mindsets, which I think is so critically important: an abundance mindset, a purpose-driven mindset, an exponential
Yeah.
mindset, a moonshot mindset.
Coin Stories is proudly brought to you by Bitdeer, a global leader in disruptive technology for Bitcoin mining and AI. As a publicly traded leader, Bitdeer boasts a massive 2.5 gigawatts of electrical capacity and infrastructure under development across 3 continents, positioning Bitdeer as one of the most diversified and power-dense computing companies in the world. Bitdeer's leadership pioneered the original advancements in Bitcoin mining ASICs and is now poised to disrupt the market again with groundbreaking new designs for the next generation of mining ASICs that are targeted to reach efficiencies of as low as 5 joules per terahash by late next year. Now they're leveraging years of expertise in data center and cloud management into high-performance computing through a partnership with NVIDIA. Join Bitdeer in reshaping the world of Bitcoin mining. Learn more at bitdeer.com and explore how they are pioneering the future today. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
It's so inspiring. And I think that's why so many people gravitate toward you and want to hear what you have to say. I would love to hear a little bit more of your Bitcoin journey before we talk more on
Yeah.
longevity and AI and
100%.
technologies, because you talk, like you said, about abundance, the future of resources. So, how does Bitcoin align with this vision? And when did you become so passionate about it?
So I first heard about Bitcoin actually on the stages of Singularity University. So I had started Singularity University with Ray Kurzweil back in 2008, 2009, right? And so this was a university whose mission it was to educate people about exponential technologies: computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, synthetic biology, AR, VR, and just at the beginning, blockchain. And back in 2012, 2013, this Bitcoin thing started popping up from our different faculty speaking about it. And I wish I could say I was one of the people who just, dropped a few $1,000s on Bitcoin back then, but that wasn't me. It was 2014 where I finally got religion. I went on CNBC because I put out, I don't know if it was a tweet or whatever, saying I sold my gold and I bought Bitcoin. And I became a believer in the vision, definitely not heavily enough, but the logic train. So one of the things that I teach, and I write about in my books, and I teach at Singularity University, is I call the 6 Ds of exponentials. And this is the roadmap by which you predict the future. The first is everything that can be digitized will be digitized. Biology, manufacturing, transportation, finance, all these things. And you're turning physical things into ones and zeros. And when you digitize something, what occurs next is very slow growth. It's deceptive is the second D. So, the first digital camera from Kodak took 0.01 megapixel images. The next year it took 0.02, then 0.04, then 0.08. All look like zero. And it's deceptive. You're not noticing it. But 10 doublings later, something's 1,000 times better. 20 doublings, it's 1,000,000. 30 doublings, it's 1,000,000,000 times better. And what we see is that when you digitize something, it dematerializes. Physical things go away. They become bits and apps and so forth. And when you digitize something, the cost of replicating it and distributing it is near zero. So it's digitize, you dematerialize, the physical things go away, you demonetize, and you democratize. And when you do that, the last D is you disrupt. And so I talked about how Bitcoin, blockchain, cryptocurrencies are the perfect example of the 6 Ds. And so that was the earliest conversations. I wrote a book in 2012 called Abundance, the Future is Better Than You Think. It was a #2 New York Times bestseller. I wish I could say it was #1, but there was some romance novel that beat me out, I think. And so I first started thinking this way, an exponential mindset, right, back then. And Bitcoin was the perfect overlay. And then I started accumulating, I would say, in 2017 as it was beginning to peak, and then when it dropped. And I bought Bitcoin yesterday. And so it's something which I'm absolutely clear that it will continue to grow and will be the asset class that I'm using for the rest of my life, especially as the speed of technology, as AI and AI agents begin to materialize, this needs to exist. And it does exist, and there'll be lots built on top of it. So, every time I get free capital, I sweep it into Bitcoin.
Wow. It's crazy to think that you were on CNBC already saying that Bitcoin is essentially an investment that you want to make, while your old classmate Michael Saylor was calling it's going to go the way of sports gambling or something. That's pretty interesting. So you were way earlier than him.
Yeah, but Mike does an amazing job, and I just spent time with him in Miami. He's probably the most eloquent and compelling speaker on this on the docket right now for Bitcoin.
Well, that brings me to my next question, because so many people out there still think that Bitcoin is too complex or too volatile, or they think it's a scam. How do you explain its potential in really simple terms to the newbies?
I show them the chart of the price over the last 15 years. And I explain it is a asset class that cannot be I wish I could bring my inner Mike Saylor to bear right now, but every other asset is depreciating, or because we're either producing more gold or producing more currencies. Real estate is being taxed away. This is the one category that stands on its own and is appreciating over the centuries ahead. And a lot of the people I hang out with right now are focused on, what's it going to be like when I'm 120 or
Mm.
150? You know, how do you build a financial structure around yourself that's going to be here and enable you to live an extra 20, 30, 40 years? And I think Bitcoin solves that. Um, and I'm also, half my life is longevity, half my life is in AI.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole the World Wide Web uh, solved a lot of issues for conversation communications, but it did not solve the world of financial transactions. And we need cryptocurrencies, we need Bitcoin, we need to enable the revolution that's coming in artificial intelligence and AI agents.
Well, let's start with the intersection between Bitcoin and the longevity space. Why is it so important that we have a form of money that appreciates in value? Could it fund research? Does it incentivize health behaviors that lead to a longer life?
I think one of the most important things in longevity is your mindset. Um, and we find out if there's, I just wrote a new book, which is over my shoulder here, called Longevity Guidebook: How to Slow, Stop, and Reverse Aging and Not Die from Something Stupid. And the book comes out on January the 3rd, which I'm very excited about. I'm donating all the profits to the XPRIZE Foundation, to our health span XPRIZE. And I'm giving the book basically away at break even. So if you are interested, go to longevityguidebook.com. There's a whole bunch of bonuses you get, and you get the book. I think it's like $12 off the Amazon price. Um, one of the chapters, one of the conversations is on mindsets. And it turns out there was a study done and published in the National Academy of Sciences that said, it was a study of 69,000 women, 1,500 men, that studied optimists versus pessimists.
Mm.
And the data, corrected for all kinds of factors, clearly showed that optimists were 15%, were living 15% longer than pessimists. Your mindset matters. And I think having a long-term mindset and a abundance-minded mindset, optimistic mindset, is part of this. And I do think that those who are Bitcoiners have that mindset. Um, the second thing is that, I talk to people about having a vision of the future. If I said to you, okay, listen, on average, if you're living in the United States, your average lifespan is 79. Um, your average health span, how long you're healthy, is 63. There's a 16-year gap between health and how long your heart is ticking.
Mm.
And I'm 63 today, but I'm in the best health I've ever been. I went into that in detail in the book from a perspective of diet, sleep, exercise, mindset, uh, full body diagnostics and therapeutics, and what's coming. And for me, one of the important elements is having a vision of your future that's bigger than a vision of your past,
Mm.
right? Being clear about what you want to do with those extra 20 or 30 years or 50 years or more. And so uh, when I ask people, okay, listen, let's just say it's 6, 7 years from now, and this $101 million health span X Prize has been won. By the way, we have 460 teams competing for that competition. That his goal is to reverse aging in your cognition, your immune system, and muscles, to give you the capacity you had 20 years ago. And that's been won, and we've just added 20 healthy years on your life. What would you do with 20 healthy years? One of the big problems people think about is, holy shit, have I saved enough money to live
Mm.
an extra 20 healthy years? Like, my accountants are saying I should save enough money to get me to 80. Well, fire those accountants and fire those real estate, those estate planners. Um, you really want to have the ability to not worry about your finances. And I think, living in a Bitcoin world gives you that level of ability and confidence to
Mm.
have those extra decades. But if I said to you, okay, if I said to you, Natalie, okay, you have 20 extra years, what would you do with it?
Oh gosh. Well, I think that we are I think that there's something to be said about us being at our full potential when we give back, when we're of service to others. So I would want to figure out the best way to use my passions to help people, because I feel like it would feel more fulfilling. Like I would feel like I led a better life and made a difference.
Yeah, and I think that's super important, right? Because a lot of the elements of meaningful life and purpose isn't what you get, it's how you can help others. How you know, when I have two 13-year-old boys, and I tell them, you know, your mission is to leave this world better than you found it. You know, to uplift humanity. That's one of the most important thing we can all do. You know, if we all do that, the world gets a hell of a lot better, a lot faster.
Yeah.
Now, and a lot of people can answer what they would do with 20 years. Some would say, you know, it's having more kids. It's some would say it's traveling the world, starting more companies. But when I say to people, okay, what would you do with 50 extra years? Their minds break. It becomes really hard to think about, how do I think about 50 extra years? Oh my God, right? And it's not just 50 extra years or 30 extra years. It's those extra years during the magical period that we're heading towards, where we're living in a world of digital superintelligence, where we have regular human travel beyond the bounds of the Earth, to the Earth and Mars and other planets and perhaps other star systems, where we're living in a world of high bandwidth brain computer interface, where we're connecting with the cloud. It's going to be, we're in the midst of the most extraordinary time ever to be alive. And I think Bitcoin is the new capital structure that must exist as we head into this warp speed, this hyperspeed. You know, I was talking to Ray Kurzweil, and Ray's considered one of the greatest thinkers of our time in the field of AI. In 1999, he predicted that we would reach human level intelligence by 2029, 30 years out. Everyone laughed at him. His predictions are very famous. If you Google Ray Kurzweil predictions, he's got an 86% accuracy rate on his predictions from all his books. And one of his predictions is that we will reach longevity escape velocity, meaning a point at which longevity is adding, for every year that you're alive, science is extending your year for more than a year. And his prediction was we'd get there by end of the year 2030. Others who I trust ping it as mid 2030s, late 2030s. It's the next 15 years. It's not forever away, right? So what's the world like when we have AI a billion times more capable than us, where we're there? I run a summit called the Abundance Summit, Natalie, as you may know, and I mentor 600 CEOs throughout the year, and we meet for 4.5 days every March in LA. At more information for folks on abundance360.com. And at this summit, we talk about where technology has gone in the last year and where it's going the next 2 to 3 years. And I had Ray Kurzweil and Jeffrey Hinton, who just got the Nobel Prize, on stage with me last year. And Ray said something very intriguing. I also had Elon in conversation with me last year, which was hilarious. We were having the conversation over X video over Starlink while he was flying on his airplane. So it was a nice demonstration. But Ray Kurzweil said, listen, we're going to see more technical progress in the next decade, 2025 to 2035, than we've seen in the entire past century, 1925 to 2025, right? That's the speed at which things are accelerating.
It's crazy.
And so how do you surf on top of that tsunami of change instead of being crushed by it? And that's the stuff I love thinking about, because we're going to reinvent every industry, everything. And it's going to be amazing.
Okay, so let me ask you something, because one thing that I think is so important is when multiple generations are really connected to one another, where children, for example, can learn from their grandparents and interact with them more, which we've sort of lost as we've entered into this kind of fiat world. Everyone's working, everyone's sort of disconnected, and now has a device in front of them. what do you say to people who wonder, well, why would I want to live longer? Because when I talk to my grandma, she doesn't want to be sitting with a device that plays with AI, and she can't even relate to that world.
Yeah.
How do you bridge those gaps where generations seem to almost be divided because of technology changes that are so rapid?
You know, we have to realize that the transformations that our grandparents saw between their birth, call it at the beginning of the early 1900s, um, the first 30, 40 years of the 1900s to today, is extraordinary. You know, we forget how much the world is constantly changing.
Mm-hmm.
There's my one of my I've got 3 books in production now. The one coming out in 2026 is The Age of Abundance. Elon's agreed to write the forward for it, and the subtitle is "Our Ancestors Would View Us as Gods." And if you stop and think about that, it's kind of true, right? The things that we do today, you and I conversing,
Yeah.
from a couple of thousand miles apart,
Mm-hmm.
instantly for free, the ability to know anything, to be omniscient, omnipotent, omnipresent. We
Yeah.
have, flying cars. We have humanoid robots. We have AIs that you can have full, rich conversations with. I mean, this is crazy, insane. Um, and it's speeding up. So we forget how much we've been able to accomplish and the lives we're living in. I'll tell you, technology has enabled me. My mom, I live in LA, in Santa Monica. My mom lives in Boca Raton and Florida. And I talk with her almost every day on FaceTime.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great. We get to see each other. We get to have conversations. I remember I bought one of the very first AT&T phones that was a picture phone. I forget when this was, but it would update a still image every 3 seconds. And it was like, it
Yeah.
was like really
Mm-hmm.
strange looking thing, and it cost a ton. Um, but we forget that these technologies also do connect us.
Mm-hmm.
They enable us to connect with family members. I know my parents were living, when they came to the U.S., they would speak to their relatives in Greece, for like, $5 a minute,
Mm-hmm.
for a 3-minute phone call on holidays only. And today, doesn't matter where someone is. You've got instant high bandwidth comms and video. So
Mm-hmm.
these technologies do connect us,
Yeah.
and they do empower us in extraordinary ways.
This episode is brought to you by Casa. As some of you know, I recently updated my self custody, and Casa makes self custody so easy, even if you've never held your own keys or used multisig before. Casa has a state of the art app and live experts standing by to guide you every step of the way. For those with large Bitcoin holdings, Casa just rolled out a new service. It now offers a holistic security advisory service. As a private client, you'll get a 7-step security overhaul, personalized consulting, and your own private emergency line for expert help when you need it most. Get 10% off your Casa plan at casa.io/Natalie. Next up, Speed, the fastest growing Lightning wallet in the world. Send and receive Bitcoin, swap with stable coins, and even snag gift cards to earn rewards, all in seconds. Download Speed via the QR code or the link in my show notes and use code CoinStories10 for 5,000 free sats. And finally, are you ready to take control of your wealth? The Bitcoin Way is here to empower you. Learn how to take full self-custody and eliminate all counterparty risk. Set up a node and become the master of your own transactions and enjoy true autonomy. And upgrade your cybersecurity and protect your online privacy like I did. The Bitcoin Way specializes in personalized one-on-one training to help you become fully self-sovereign. Schedule a free consultation today. All right, back to the show. I think that it's so much easier to be optimistic about the future when you aren't struggling day to day, especially when it comes to financial security. So,
Yeah.
what advice do you have for people who look out into the future and they hear about humanoid robots and
Mm.
and all of these crazy things that are happening with tech, and they are scared and they don't really want to see the future move in that direction? Why do you think that it's a good thing to embrace those types of changes and to be very optimistic?
Because we're going to see more and more opportunities. we're going to see more and more elements of our lives begin to demonetize. Let's talk about that second part first. The things that we spend money on today will begin to become exponentially cheaper. So, for example, a lot of our capital, if you're parents, if you're a family with kids, or if you're an elder adult with grandkids, or whatever the case might be, there's a good amount of money spent on education. Um,
Mhm.
the best educators in the world will be these AI systems, right? In the same way that Google is free for the son or daughter of a billionaire and the son or daughter of someone in a favela in Brazil, right? It's not like Google is a little bit better for the wealthy billionaire. It's identical. It's flat, right? It is something that it's accessible. The world's information is available to every single human, and there are 8 billion smartphones on the planet. I'm sorry, there's 7 billion smartphones on the planet, but there's well over more than that in terms of handsets. Where we're going to head is that the best educators on the planet will be AIs available to the son or daughter of a billionaire or the poorest person, identical.
Mm.
And that educator, that AI educator, will understand your kids' favorite, sports stars, colors, actors, and will give them the most personalized education ever. The second place we spend a lot of time and money is health. And we're going to see AI become your diagnostician, your therapist, your greatest advocate for your health.
Mm.
So a lot of the places are going to demonetize and democratize. So I think this is an important element to realize: where do you spend your money today?
Mm.
And these things are over time becoming cheaper. The places that aren't cheaper is education and healthcare, and those will be decimated this decade. Uh,
Mm.
so the second thing is, your ability to upgrade your life, meaning it used to be that whatever education you had, whether you finished high school or you didn't finish high school, or you went to college or didn't go to college, um, that was it. That was your education. You locked it in by age 22, and it was there for the rest of the 80 years of your life. So, but today that doesn't have to be the case. Today,
Mhm.
there is a infinite amount, or not infinite, but a near infinite amount of knowledge that you can upskill yourself for free on the web. Do you want to understand how to trade crypto? You can do that. I mean, if you
Yeah.
go to ChatGPT, if you go to Gemini, if you go to Claude from Anthropic, and you just say, give yourself the benefit of time, 3, 4 hours on Saturday and Sunday, and start with curiosity and say, listen, I
Mhm.
want to understand more about, DeFi, or I want to learn more about how to program, or whatever it might be. AI is the most infinite teacher. I'm sorry, and the most infinitely patient teacher, and it will take you from wherever you are. One of the favorite sayings you can say, "Explain it to me like I'm 5," and it will.
Yeah, these technologies, it's really inspiring that someone who previously thought, oh, I can't do anything else than what I have been doing for the last several decades or what I studied in school. I can't break out. Well, no, actually, you can. It's all at your fingertips now. And if there's something else that you're curious about or things have changed for you, you've developed a new passion, you can pursue it and it is more accessible to everyone, which is super inspiring. I want to dig more into AI, but first, just on the longevity to button it
Yeah,
up, what are some very simple steps that people watching or listening to this can
yeah.
take right now today to increase their chances of living
Thank
a
you
longer,
for
healthier life?
asking that, because I think it's very simple. Um, in the book, I lay out, there's a chapter on diet, on sleep, on exercise, on mindset, on what I call not dying from something stupid, which is digitally uploading yourself in a fashion. And we do this at a company called Fountain Life. You can go to fountainlife.com to learn more. Um, and then supplements and meds, I lay it all out in detail, but in a very clear, actionable fashion. You can pick it up and like read a section. Okay, let's talk about some of the basics. Let's talk about diet first. Um, Unfortunately, for world, we're addicted to sugar. Sugar is a neurotoxin. It is a cardiac inflammatory agent. The body was never designed to eat as much sugar as we do. We've increased our sugar intake over the last century 100-fold. And there's a definitive problem with that. Besides obesity, it is the number one cause of heart disease, and obviously diabetes, and stroke, as well as neurocognitive disease. So can you reduce the amount of sugar you take in? Especially refined sugar and fructose. I mean, it is a poison. I hate to say that. I minimize my sugar intake to the maximum extent possible. I look at it and I've got a judo flip in my mind saying, I will not eat that. That's not who I am. The flip side of that is whole plants. I attack whole plants. I love broccoli, with olive oil and lemon. Even when you sit down at dinner tonight, here's a hack for you. When you sit down at dinner, drink a full glass of water first. Okay, very simple to start to fill your stomach. Take a deep breath in and out. It just puts you in a parasympathetic arrest and digest mode. And that allows you to begin to digest your food in the proper fashion. And then the order in which you eat your food matters. So for example, eat your vegetables first. Your salad, your broccoli, or whatever it is, your asparagus, the fiber in that begins to slow down your digestive tract so you can actually absorb the nutrients. After you've consumed your veggies, then your protein, and then if you have room, then then any carbs. And if you're at a restaurant, when they bring you the wine and bread at the beginning, they're not doing that for your benefit. They're doing it for their benefit. When you start, munching on the bread in the center of the table and drinking a glass of wine, it spikes your blood glucose, which spikes your insulin, which then drives the glucose into your cells and makes you more hungry, and you order more food. Ask them to please bring it back with the meal, right? And I've got a habit right now. Whenever there's a piece of dessert being put in front of me, I stop it right then and there. I don't let it end up in the plate in front of me, because if it does, I only have so much willpower. And I can hold off, but I'll take a little nibble and then it's all over. So that's diet. Exercise is probably the number one most important thing you can do. It is your longevity organ, your muscles. So I was up at 6 a.m. this morning in the gym. I'm in the gym at least 5 days a week, and I lift weights there. I have a Techno Gym bike over there that I take my board meetings on, my staff meetings. And for me, last year I added 10 pounds of muscle. And my job now is maintain that. If I can grow it, fantastic. But there's a direct correlation between muscle and longevity for a number of reasons. So get in the gym a little bit.
Love that.
Yeah. Get in, even just a little bit. Go take your calls on your cell phone as you're walking. Get a walking desk. Get a bike in your office. And just sitting is the new smoking. I hate the fact that I'm sitting right now, but I don't want to take this on the anyway. And then the final thing is sleep. Listen, sleep is the foundation upon which it all rests. Our bodies need 8 hours of sleep. And if evolution could have done away with sleep, it would have. While we're sleeping, we're not reproducing, we're open to predation, we're not being productive in any way. Believe me, if evolution could have done away and made it 4 hours of sleep, it would have. For me, it's a minimum of 7. I target 8, which means I'm in bed at 9:30 at night because my body wakes up at 5:30. And those are a few simple elements. I mean, people know it. I lay out all the details in Longevity Guidebook to make it really understandable. I take 75 pills a day, crazy. And I lay out why and what each one does. I don't recommend that for everybody unless you're in conversation with your physician, but it's all there. And for me, I just want humans around the world to know that there is an alternate health span future for them.
Wow, that's fascinating. And that book is coming out in January, right?
Yeah, January 3rd. You can go now and pre-order it. There's a whole bunch of bonuses that you get. And again, if you go to longevityguidebook.com, I think it's $12 off Amazon. And again, there's a whole bunch of additional content, videos and how to and a whole bunch of stuff. My job, I don't need to make money on this book. My goal is to get the book out as far and wide as possible and distribute it
Hmm.
everywhere I can, just to change people's mindset. And longevity equals Bitcoin. For me, the
Hmm.
two are locked in terms of mindset, in terms of vision of the future, in terms of
Yeah.
optimism.
It's so true because the Bitcoiners, we've dropped our time preference. We're not doing the short term thinking that fiat incentivizes, where you're just panic and survival mode. It allows you to think about your future. And that means you need to be healthy for the future. And I love your tips. I think it's also really important for women to make sure to focus on that muscle mass. Sometimes they think, no, 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 that's not for me. And slow down when we eat. That's one thing I love
Oh my
about
God.
my European culture. It's like you go
Yeah.
there and everything's just a little slower. It's okay.
Yes.
You don't
Yes.
have to move when
Chew
yeah,
your food 20 times instead of taking Ozempic. It releases the same GLP-1 agonist.
exactly.
By the way, I should mention this. There is an entire chapter on women's health
Mm,
written by two amazing women in this book, Dr. Helen Messier, who's an MD, PhD, who's a chief medical officer at Fountain Life, and Dr. Mona Izat Villanov, who is
oh yeah,
my physician. Anyway,
cool.
I wanted a women's chapter because
Love
women are
that.
not small men, and there's differences, and it's important.
I love that. Okay, a few more questions.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to you a little bit more about AI and the threats that people perceive, including with things like Bitcoin. You tweet about things like quantum, and I've had so many people ask me, well, as computing advances and accelerates, they're going to crack Bitcoin, and Bitcoin has some sort of vulnerability. How do you answer those questions?
Yeah. So listen, I have been asking that question myself of every smart quantum computer scientist I know, Jack Hittery, who runs Sandbox AQ, Hartmut Nevin, who runs Quantum at Google. And I think thus far, everybody feels very safe and assured. But here's the interesting thing. If there was ever a um, uh, a capacity that quantum computation and quantum algorithms could crack various codes, uh, Bitcoin is the last thing to worry about. Why? Because you could crack every financial institution on the planet, right? I mean, it's like the amount of capital that's inside all the banks worldwide um, far outstrips what's in the cryptocurrency world.
Mm,
So why aren't you worried about that? Um, so yes, I think there's so much at stake that whether it's quantum encryption or other protective mechanisms, uh, that yeah, if it all happens, everything's over anyway. So enjoy yourself. No, I just don't mean that. But I'm not worried about it. I think AI is going to put. If people feel like the world is moving fast, right? You
yeah.
agree with that?
Hmm. Yes.
We ain't seen nothing yet. We're about to see the world go into hyperspeed, and that uh, is going to be enabled by AI and by various tokenizations of our assets and our currencies. And I think there's going to be more wealth created in
Mhm.
the next decade than we've seen in the past century. Um, it's going to be amazing.
Our first trillionaires, I bet. How
Yeah,
can
for
people
sure.
prepare themselves for the future and for some of these changes that are rapidly happening? Because I'll give you an example. ChatGPT. I thought that that was like I don't know, a singular phenomenon, and now there's AIs popping up that are offering all these different ones. And if you, I mean, you need all the time in the world to try to experiment with all of them and try to learn them. What's your advice for people navigating all of this?
So, what is going to happen? You've seen the movie Iron Man, of course, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Tony Stark in Iron Man has Jarvis, which is his AI,
Hmm.
and Jarvis is his interface into the world, and that is coming relatively soon. We have versions of it today from Amazon or Apple or Google and so forth, but they're very nascent. We're going to see AI agents that you give permission to read all of your emails, listen to all of your conversations, see what you're eating, look at your genome. You give full access because when that AI has access to all that information, it makes your life automagical. And it knows what you desire and your intention. And while you and I may not be able to know all of the different AI agents and algorithms and LLMs out there in the world, your AI agent, your version of Jarvis will. And so you can say, hey, listen, this is the goal. This is what I want to accomplish. I want to learn all about this. Would you please set up an educational course in VR for me? You know what I want. Last year at the Abundance Summit, I had one of my business partners, Steve Brown, created a few dozen top AI avatars of Plato and Socrates and Ayn Rand and all of these,
Amazing.
great thinkers.
Yeah.
And I had conversations with these individuals on stage, and it's magical. So
Yeah.
you can have, you can go to Karl Marx and have a debate between him and Ayn Rand with you facilitating. I mean, these are incredible worlds that we're
Yeah.
living in, and it's not evenly distributed yet. But your AI agent will be your interface to all of this knowledge and all this capability. And that's coming in the next year, 2 years. It's not far away.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. I had Brian Romley on the show, and he talked about the idea of having basically you could download your thoughts into an AI, and then your future ancestors could actually have a conversation with you as if you were there, which is wild to think about. But
And I've done that. I have peterbot.ai, which is up, which has all of my blogs. I've written thousands and thousands of blogs. I've written 6 books, all of my podcasts, my Moonshot podcast, and it knows me better than I know myself. I mean, I've forgotten a lot of the stuff that I knew before. And I want my kids and my grandkids. I mean, listen, I hope to reach immortality by not dying versus having my AI, represent me. But hey.
Well, this leads me to an important question, though, because if we're giving all of this personal information to a piece of technology, how do we protect our privacy? How do we make sure that people don't take advantage of that data? And what role do institutions play in helping protect that?
So, Natalie, do you think that you do have privacy?
I mean, I think that I have a right to privacy, yes,
I
but
understand
I feel
that,
like
but
today it's very compromised in a digital world, right?
I mean, listen, Alexa is listening to our conversation right now. Hello, Alexa. Anyway, and as is Siri, as is Google, as is every device in our area. So, I don't. I would like privacy. I think we have the right to privacy. I don't know that we do really have privacy, right? I can walk up to you, shake your hand, grab a few skin cells, sequence you, and know everything about your health, right? AIs can read your lips from 100 meters away. So I think that privacy is a relatively new concept in human society. I don't know that there was a expectation of privacy 1,000 years ago. So I'm not saying I don't like it. I don't want it, because I do. I just think we're going to need to see how societal structures transform if, in fact, it becomes way too easy for things that you consider private to be disclosed. I do think there's an upside. If there's someone doing evil work, if there's a despot, you know, terrorizing their citizens, and a camera crew from the TV shows up there, they change their tune. I used to support the Lindbergh Foundation that would fly drones over rhinoceros and elephants, and that would keep all the poachers away.
Yeah, I mean, we change our behavior when we know we're being watched. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
What's something that an AI can't do that really you need that human touch and human contact for?
Oh my God. I'll let you know. Every idea I've had has fallen. I used to be that I thought empathy would be that thing that AIs can't do, but there's tons of studies out now that AIs are viewed as far more empathic as physicians and therapists than humans are. And it's logical, right? Because if you're sitting with a physician or a therapist of some type and you're speaking to them, you're in the back of your mind wondering, are they judging me? Um, AI doesn't judge you. A human does. And then humans have a limited amount of time. And AI has all the time for you that you want. It's not saying, I'm sorry, I have my next patient, I have to go. It's like, yeah, let's have the conversation for 6 hours if you want. So we're seeing huge amount of positive marks for empathy. I don't know. What do you think AI can do that humans can't?
I mean, my initial reaction goes to the idea of human touch. Like, there's nothing like feeling the warmth of,
Okay,
some even holding
I
someone's
agree with you
hand.
right now.
My
I haven't seen
partner.
that. I
I
haven't seen
can't have a
that.
partner who's an AI.
Yes, cuddling up with somebody in bed, or a
Yeah.
hug, or a dance, or all those things. For the moment, that's my new answer.
Okay. I don't know. The idea that the soul that embodies the actual physical human, I
Yeah,
think that there's something irreplaceable about that.
I hope so.
Um,
I
all
hope
right.
so.
Well, as we start to wrap up, if you were to predict what the world will look like in 2050,
Oh my
what
God.
what what is that vision?
It's really hard. It's hard to predict what the world. I was hoping you'd say 2030, because 2050 is like infinitely away. I mean, 25 years from now is going to represent something like the difference between the Middle Ages and today.
That's
I kid you
crazy.
not. I mean, that's
Crazy.
what we're going to see in terms of accelerations. So have we uploaded our brains? Have we gone to the star systems? Have we become a fully digitized and virtualized society? I mean, those are the order of magnitude of elements that I imagine. I think from the perspective of our conversation today, we will be into a completely, I mean, the idea of physical money and fiat
Mm.
currency will be gone, period. I think we'll be living in a fully digitized, um, you know, uh, Bitcoin-based economy. I have very little expectations of anything else. In terms of human longevity, by 2050, 25 years from now, I think we'll have reached by a long shot, by a long margin, longevity escape velocities. So people routinely living significantly past 100 years old. In the lab today, you can regrow. Well, the technology by 2030 will be here to regrow a heart, liver, lung, kidney. I just saw technology yesterday to go from a skin cell, turn it into a pluripotent stem cell, and regrow a clone of yourself. And you can regrow a clone with a particular genetic um, alteration that doesn't grow ahead. So you're not thinking about a fully, but it's going the organs. So you need a backup set of organs like that. We'll have been able to connect the human brain, right? We have 100 billion neurons, 100 trillion synaptic connections that are everything we see, hear, feel, know. We'll have connected that with the cloud by mid 2030s, which means that, in the same way that my cell phone here, um, when it needs to do something complicated, it isn't done on the phone. It goes to the edge of the 5G network. The work gets done there, and the answer gets put into my phone. So our brains will be connected with the cloud. And if you want to understand quantum physics, or look at the entire sum total of Bitcoin's history and correlate it with the temperature of the planet, whatever you want, you can think that, and then the computation in the AI systems in the cloud will give you those answers. I mean, by 2040, it's predicted to have 10 billion humanoid robots on the planet. What will it be by 2050? I don't know. A lot of incredible, flying cars, autonomous cars, genetic engineering, disease will be gone. No question about that. The idea of cancer will be long gone, and genetic diseases will have been extracted and removed. We can do that now with CRISPR edits, but it's just at the earliest stages. It's expensive. It'll get much cheaper and become available everywhere. There's a magical world coming our way. For me, it's one of the most exciting times ever to be alive.
I mean, you're so optimistic about it. You don't worry about things like the ethical implications of genetic engineering and
Well,
cloning and all of that.
Oh, work it out. We always have. I mean, remember, having in vitro fertilization was chastised by the church. Oh my God, how can you possibly do that? And now it's a miracle. The idea of taking the heart of a dead man and transplanting it into the chest cavity of someone who's dying from cardiomyopathy, again, was the work of the devil. Now it's a miracle. We we adjust societal structures to accommodate those things if they are uplifting humanity, right? So I'm excited about a world where every man, woman, and child has access to all the food, water, energy, healthcare, education that they want, that we're uplifting society, and people can now begin to dream about what they want to do, that people are fighting um, to solve problems because they know that the world's biggest problems are the world's biggest business opportunities. And like, damn it, I want to be the one who's solving this and that and the other thing. I mean, the wealthiest person on the planet, how do you think about Elon? He's the one going out there and solving the world's biggest problems, which are the world's biggest business opportunities. That should be the model.
All right, my last question to you. If we're all
Hmm.
living to be over 100, how does one age with grace and dignity? What does that even mean? How do you age gracefully into your hundreds?
By enjoying life, by loving life, by being grateful. I mean, for me, when I go to sleep at night, my practice is, what are the three things that I'm most grateful for from today? It's always a human interaction. It's not a trade. It's my kid saying, "I love you, Dad." Right?
Mm.
It's a conversation I had with a friend I haven't spoken to in ages. Those things are the things I'm most grateful for. And when I wake up in the morning, before I touch my cell phone, before I get out of bed, it's a gratitude practice. It's like, thank you for letting me be in this amazing day where I can help the world, where I can make my dreams come true. I'm excited for this day, and I'm going to get my butt out of bed and go exercise right now. Right? I mean, I think it's it's being an optimist. It's loving life. It's giving back, like you said earlier. It's like, what can I do to make the world a better place? Right? What problems can I solve? Who can I mentor and support? I think that is what we should increasingly do as we age. It's the answer you gave earlier.
That's such a powerful message. Thank you so much. What an inspiring conversation. I'm so glad that you were able to make it on the show. I hope we get a chance to see each other in person again soon. I had the chance to meet Peter for the first time when he introduced Michael Saylor when he was winning an award in Los Angeles at an event. So, Peter, absolutely wonderful. I'm going to link in the show notes your books, all of your work, your amazing companies.
Thank
Thank
you,
you
thank
so
you.
much for all of your
Yeah,
valuable
I
time.
put this out mostly on Twitter. I'm at Peter Diamandis,
Mhm.
and folks put out two blogs a week, and you can sign up for those. One's on AI, one's on longevity, and those are at diamandis.com. So thank you for the work that you're doing. Thank you for the chance to share, my passion, what I love, and maybe a little bit of an antidote to all the pessimism out there in the world.
It's been wonderful to have so much hopium in this this interview. People will really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Be well.
Thank you so much for checking out this episode of Coin Stories. Make sure you're subscribed to the show and hit that notifications button so you never miss any new content. Also, check out our weekly free newsletter at thenewsblock.substack.com. This show is for entertainment and educational purposes only. Nothing should constitute as investment advice, and you should always do your own research. I'm always open to feedback and guest suggestions, so please feel free to reach out at info@talkingbitcoin.com. I'll see you next time.